This is Join Us in France, episode 50. Hello, I'm Annie, and I'm doing this solo again this week because Elise is very busy. And unfortunately, I have a cold, so my plans to go interview Marianne Clignet fell through because I really don't want to make her sick. So today, instead, I'm going to share a few thoughts with you on how to stay safe while visiting France. I'm recording this on January 8th, 2015, and just yesterday there was an attack on the weekly satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo, and so the whole country is in high alert. As I speak, the police is chasing down one of the murderers through the streets of Paris. And while this sort of thing doesn't happen very often in France, it does happen. It happened a couple years ago in Toulouse, actually, with a crazy guy who, he shot a few army officers, he shot some kids, and it all ended up in a bloody gun battle, and it was just horrible. So this sort of thing can happen in France, and I think because just like most countries, we have some people, some young people who are not very well integrated into French society. Now, I'm not saying it's their fault necessarily. I think French society has some thinking to do on that. But when these young people become radicalized, it can be dangerous. And a lot of them, honestly, also have some mental illness issues, which pushes them to act. So what can you do if you happen to be in France today, or at any time when something like this happens? What should you do? I would say don't stay in your hotel, because that's just, you've come all this way to see stuff. Come out, go see stuff. But do take your passport with you, because in France, it is the law that you are supposed to have your passport with you at all times. Not just in times like this, but at all times. Now, to tell you the truth, most people don't comply with this. I don't. I don't have my ID with me at all times, but I do have photocopies of my ID in my car anyway. And, if I've gotten stopped for speeding or something, I just produce my photocopies. The police officers make me go show the actual documents within 24 hours, and I'm fine. But I would say if you're in France, especially at times like this where it's tense, do take your passport with you. If it's a perfectly relaxed kind of time, it's okay to have just a photocopy and put your official documents in the hotel safe, and just carry your photocopies with you. That usually works. But you do need to be able to show your ID at all times. That's just French law. So in general, France is a really safe society. I've said this many times on the show. We don't have that much crime. We don't have very much gun violence. I think it's because there are so few guns in France. But the bad guys, like in this instance, always manage to get their hands on lethal weapons. So you can't be 100% sure that nobody's got guns. But for the most part in France, you can say that the police has guns, but most people don't. And so there are some situations where in America, for instance, if you're walking in a city and you see a big group of young teenagers and they're rough looking and whatever, you might get a little nervous, right? Well, that's not a situation that calls for nervousness in France, because most likely these guys don't have any weapons with them. So, it's a much more relaxed kind of atmosphere most of the time. But on a day like today, obviously, it's not quite the same. So what's likely to happen is that you will have elevated security all over in all public places. You will see police carrying heavy weapon. Not just police, it can be military. They can have machine guns and stuff like that. It's and they do this very overtly So they'll stand around the metro or the airport or the train station, and they will usually have police dogs with them. They will have sniffing dogs to make sure that they don't find any explosives or anything like that. They will remove all receptacles, including garbage cans. Anywhere somebody could drop a bomb that would be hidden away, they will remove. So in times like this, you have to keep your trash in your pockets. And it's tense, it's just not a super friendly time to be walking around. But I think it's okay if you just go on with your day. Maybe I'd use a taxi rather than the public transportation, but that's just me because I get nervous in public transportation anyway. So if I know that there's been a terrorist attack and there might be copycats and stuff, I'm like, I might stay away from the underground. But that's just me. I mean, I think it's an irrational fear on my part. But, I listen to my own fears. Obviously, I'm like everybody else. So go places. I would also avoid highly iconic places. I mean, I might avoid the Eiffel Tower today. Again, not that anything's going to happen to the Eiffel Tower, but who knows? I'd avoid probably the Louvre today. But there's so many other things you can do in Paris that are equally fun. So I might go to the Carnavalet Museum or one of these museums that are not as famous but very fun to see. Obviously, when you are in a situation like this, high alert, you need to comply with whatever police or security tells you. In France, we also have a lot of firefighters, like in malls and places like that. It's usually trained firefighters who are walking around and they wear red. You have to comply to what they ask you to do. So if you don't understand, you make it clear that you don't understand. But typically it's pretty simple. They're going to tell you stop or go that way, or it's going to be stuff like that. But realistically, the most likely crime situation that you're going to find yourself in is petty theft. Somebody's going to get into your pocket and get your documents, get your wallet. Some people are really, really good at stealing, and I'm pretty good at trying to avoid being robbed. But a few people have gotten me, so don't feel too bad. Don't be too afraid of that. But do kind of separate your stuff. Leave some of your credit cards in the hotel safe. Leave some of your cash, maybe. Separate things. Put things in different pockets. That sort of thing works really well. Oh, my voice is really going, so I'm going to really keep this short. But I would say if you start seeing, army and military in riot gear and police in riot gear with heavy weapons and helmets and all, I kind of walk away from them. Not that they're going to do anything to you, but it indicates that there's somewhat of a dangerous situation. Now, if they're just in the underground, for instance, and you have to walk past them to get out of the metro station, well, then you have to. And they're probably just there to intimidate people. But this is where it's really, really important for you to have a plan B. And I'm a strong believer in this. When you go anywhere, yes, you have your plan A. And if you're listening to this show, probably you're the kind of person who likes to know where they're going, what they're going to do, and you don't really like to wing it. If you probably have friends and family who are the kind of wing it tourists, and it works just fine for them. So I know people who've flown into Paris and they didn't even have a hotel for the first night. They didn't really care. They were just, I'll find somewhere. There's a million hotels in Paris. I'll find one. And they usually do. I don't think that any of them ever slept on the street. So, but probably if you listen to this show, you're someone who likes to plan things out. And so let me tell you, have a plan B. For instance, today, if things are just too tense in Paris, I might get on a train and go to Versailles, or go to Reims, or go to Chartres. like Elise explained on previous episodes. You can totally do that from Paris. It's just a few hours, an hour and a half on the train. Although in this particular instance, it looks like they are tracking down some people in Reims as well. So you have to kind of keep your ear to the ground and know what's happening. But typically, you have one person who in this case it was three, but it's not, it's localized, it's not all over the country. So maybe get out and go do something different. And you should anyway have a plan B, because maybe the weather is going to be bad. Maybe you will, I don't know, maybe you'll get sick. Maybe you'll get tired. It's really good to have a different plan for when you go abroad anywhere to visit. Another thing that I want to touch on, and then I'll call it a day, is what happens when there's a strike in France. And the strikes are not, they don't make you unsafe in any way. It's just big gatherings of people in the streets, and you might feel that it's unsettling. Excuse me. Sorry. So you might feel that it's unsettling to see big groups of people marching down the street. There are two kinds of big groups of people marching down the streets in France. There's the spontaneous kind that happened last night, all over France as a result of the Charlie Hebdo thing. People just went downtown, City Square, and gathered and, held signs and just were there together to say, we're not going to put up with this. So that's one thing. That's totally spontaneous. There's nothing, you can't know about it. The second kind of big group of people that you will find is celebrations after sports victories. And we don't have enough of those, but occasionally we have some. And you will have huge crowds gathering, and you don't really know where they're coming from. It's usually super peaceful, super happy-go-lucky. You shouldn't be worried about it. You can just take pictures of the people and have fun with their costume. Look at their costumes and whatever. Enjoy the moment. The third kind, and that's a little bit more unsettling, although not dangerous, is the strikes. France is notorious, for having lots and lots of strikes. And strikes are intended to cause friction and discomfort. And trust me, they always find the best way to cause friction and discomfort. The thing is, the right to strike is a very guarded right in France. Most French people are in favor of everybody's right to strike. So if you've got, say, this is a situation that happened to me a few years ago. We were driving along the freeway, and all of a sudden, the freeway, which was a toll road actually, comes to a parking lot. Stands still, and we're a few kilometers from the toll booth. I know this because I'm there all the time, and it took forever. They would let a few cars through at a time, but very few. And you get so angry, waiting there. And I didn't really know what was happening, but I figured it must be a strike. And sure enough, it was. And when we got to the toll booth and finally were able to pay our money and get the heck out, there was police there. But the police was there to protect the strikers. Protect the strikers who have a right to strike. And it will be the same if you're at an airport and there's a strike. You might see police, but they're not going to be there to force the strikers to go back to work. No, they're there to protect their right to strike. So you have to understand that this is something that France has to deal with. I don't think it's a particularly good thing about France, but it's how it is. And so if you're caught in a strike, well, try to be patient, and you have to put up with it. Just the last couple of weeks, we've had strikes in the metro in Toulouse. And, it's a huge pain in the behind, because young people, people who don't drive, teenagers, whatever, my daughter, they depend on public transportation, and it's a huge problem. all sorts of people depend on public transportation. Of course, it's very popular in France. Lots and lots of people take it. And so you feel like you're at the mercy of these idiots, which it's not a good feeling, but you just have to know it might happen, and it's just a fact. It's just a fact. It's not super common again, but too often. Okay, well, I'm sorry, but I have to call it a day. I'm hoping to bring you the interview with Marion Clignier next week. Thank you very much, and much appreciate your help with those of you who go to joinusinfrance.com/Amazon. The last month we did pretty well. We got enough to pay for, I think, 2 months of hosting, so that'll be really, really good. I hope it continues, because it shows us that you appreciate what we do, and that's very nice of you. All right, have a very good week, and we'll talk to you next Saturday. Au revoir.